A year ago, I made a video predicting that the wild area would become a regular event and that part 2 would feature Centiscorch. Well, crab apples. But to be fair, I was trying to predict the second edition of something that had only ever happened once before. But with this year's wild area event in our rearview mirror, and 2 iterations of the event to study, let's see if we can do a bit better trying to predict Pokemon Go's Wild Area 2026 event. In addition to the wildly popular Mighty Pokemon, both Wild Area events have centered around the release of a brand new Gigantamax Pokemon, Toxtricity in 2024 and Grimmsnarl in 2025. In total, there are 31 Gigantamax Pokemon, so in order to narrow this down to some contenders, let's take a closer look at what these 2 Pokemon in particular have in common. Because once you do, you'll find that, if I'm right, there's really only a few possible Pokemon that could be featured in 2026. Firstly, both Toxtricity and Grimmsnarl are Pokemon that were introduced in the Galar region, so it makes sense to feature them at these events, since Gigantamaxing Pokemon was the main gimmick for that generation. By applying this Galar exclusive filter to the 31 Gigantamax Pokemon, and eliminating Toxtricity and Grimmsnarl, leaves us with just 11 possible contenders: Corviknight, Orbeetle, Dreadnaugh, Colossal, Flapple and Appleton, Sandaconda, Centiscorch, Hatterene, Alcremie, Caparajah, and Duraludon. And already this is starting to feel like a murder mystery. One of you is the killer. So let's put on our investigator's cap, dig a little deeper, and find out who. The second thing that Toxtricity and Grimmsnarl have in common is that both they and their pre-evolution forms were first introduced into Pokemon Go during the Wild Area event, meaning we can most likely look past any Pokemon who are currently already in the game. This eliminates Corviknight, Flapple and Appleton, Centiscorch, Hatterene, and Duraludon, who have already been released. And the third and easily most important thing that Toxtricity and Grimmsnarl have in common is that they both have dual typing, with Toxtricity being poison and electric, and Grimmsnarl being dark and fairy. What makes this so important is that the feature Pokemon's dual types dictate the wild area's spawns. It's why during the first wild area we had habitats that alternated between poison and electric, and why we just had the same thing for dark and fairy. Applying the rule of dual typing to our 5 remaining suspects eliminates Sandaconda, a pure ground type, and Caparajah, a pure steel type. So these are our prime suspects: Orbeetle, Dreadnaugh, and Colossal. As far as which one it will be, well, your guess is as good as mine, but since my guess a year ago Centiscorch was proven wrong when Sizzlipede was first introduced into the game, the same will most likely be true should any of these be released over the course of the next year. So instead, let's take a look at what a Wild Area 2026 would look like with each of them, and I'll offer my opinion on how likely I think they are. Starting with Orbeetle yields us alternating habitats of bug and psychic types. For Mighty Pokemon, on Saturday you can look for Mighty Beedrill, Alakazam, Galarian Slowbro, Alolan Executor, Armaldo, Kricketune, Gardevoir, Bronzong, and Crustle. On Sunday, look for Mighty Parasect, Galarian Slowking, Starmie, Metagross, Galad, Vespiquen, Yanmega, and Araquanid. And in the wild, look for a bunch of various bug and psychic types, including Blipbug, making its Pokemon Go debut, as well as Gigantamax Orbeetle appearing in raids. From our 3 possible suspects, I would say that Orbeetle is the least likely, if only for the reason that bug-type Pokemon don't exactly lend themselves well to being mighty, though I obviously can't rule that out. But that isn't the case for our next suspect, Colossal, which yields us a selection of fire and rock-type Pokemon to encounter. For Mighty Pokemon, I'll go ahead and predict Charizard, Arcanine, Sudowoodo, Aggron, Chandelure, Probopass, Pyroar, and Barbaracle on Saturday. And Alolan Golem, Ninetales, Rapidash, Aerodactyl, Tyranitar, Darmanitan, Gigalith, and Talonflame on Sunday, with various rock and fire types appearing in the wild, alongside Roly-Poly and Gigantamax Colossal in raids. But just as with Orbeetle, there's a singular reason why I don't think Colossal is our prime suspect. It's typing. The developers aren't perfect, but they do usually try to schedule themes that are consistent with the weather, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. Ice events are typically in the winter, grass events are typically in the spring, and featuring fire-type Pokemon just as the weather turns bitter cold for many doesn't really jive. Which leads us to our final suspect, and the one I am guessing we'll see featured at the Wild Area 2026. Dreadnaugh. Dreadnaugh, a water rock type, means I don't even have to change half of my predictions. So on Saturday I can forecast encountering mighty Kingler, Golem, Melodic, Octillery, Sudowoodo, Aggron, Jellicent, Probopass, and Barbaracle. While on Sunday it changes over to Lapras, Alolan Golem, Aerodactyl, Tyranitar, Ludicolo, Seismitoad, Gigalith, Araquanid, and Golisopod, with various water and rock encounters including Choodle and Gigantamax Dreadnaugh appearing in raids. But what do you think? If my thesis is correct, which wild area would you be rooting for? And if not, who do you think will be featured at next year's rendition? Let me know down in the comments, and as always, stay safe out there, trainers.